So welcome back to another video about the 3v3 that I did on Sunday at the YCS London 250th. So I don't know if you've already seen my first video about the first ever 3v3 I participated in, and that was on Friday. So this is basically my second foray into this format, and I'm super happy to say that, as you can see, I managed to get enough points at the YCS to get this beautiful Traptrix World Championship qualifier mat, which I think was from 2020 Echo kind of time. So I'm super happy, and I'm really proud of how I played with this deck. I think there's a lot more that I can do with it, and I'm just going to basically run through my 3v3 matchups with you and kind of changes and what I learnt. So as before, as always, I'm just going to quickly run through the deck just so you know what I'm doing. I think it is essentially the same as what I did on Friday. So these are the standard, the Traptrix package here. I've actually got 12 names, and I will be talking about this later because I feel like maybe I want to add a third name, a 13th name, because there were some frustrating matchups where I literally just drew no Traptrix monsters, so I'll talk about that later. The rest of it is just fairly standard. I have to say Artifact Lancia really pulled its weight, and I'll go into that. One Lord of the Heavenly Prison, standard pots to dig for stuff, and then I really like the 2-2-2 ratio, but at the end I'll go into my feelings about that. And then 3 Infinite Imperm, 3 Evenly. The extra deck here is 3 Serra, 2 Atipus, 1 Lingaribo in case of any Iblis, which I didn't actually see all YCS, 1 Alamiris, 2 Pingicula, 2 Rafflesia, 1 Time Brief Redoer, Utopia, and Utopia the Lightning package, and then a Zeus. Side, I decided to go for Judgments, Goes and Match, Draw and Lock for all the combo decks, Kadalas to tribute any towers, and a bit of back row removal. Okay, so my first matchup was against Dragon Link. So I basically won the dice roll and went first, which I was like thrilled about. But essentially, I just drew all traps and couldn't even go into Serra. It was just the most heartbreaking thing, and essentially I had to pass turn, and you know, D-Link just have so much resource that I just got killed very quickly, so that was upsetting. So game 2, I decided to try to go first again. And I had sided in, I believe, 3 Solemn Judgment, because the point is I just want to see 1 in my opening hand to protect me against any Harpies or Lightning Storms, essentially, or evenly matched if I don't have the Lancia in my hand. And I did manage to have that set, as well as a couple of other traps and stuff. I think I might have gotten a Serra on the field, and they actually used Lightning Storm, so I had to solemn that. And somehow I think I managed to grind that one out using, I think, a combination of Pingicula and Serra. I think I actually managed to get the effect of Pingicula off. I think these Traptrix extra deck monsters have so many secondary effects that I just need to ingrain into my brain a bit better. So yeah, so if you have Pingicula out in the field and then you special summon Pudica will banish something, and because it's a monster has left the field, well, opponent's monster has left the field, sent to the graveyard, banished by a card effect, so that would be Pudica, I can just pinch it and attach it to this material, to this card as material. So I think I need to start utilizing more of that to gain advantage. And yeah, this is where the fun of Traptrix begins, when you start to know all the nuance and the interaction. So we basically went into a game 3, and because I won the previous game, he went first, so I went second, and I drew so awfully. You know, I think they had set up board with Heavenly Spheres, and I basically Pot of Prosperity, and I took the Exceed to try and go into a rank 4, but you know, the Heavenly Spears, I think it just banished, sorry, it bounced my Serra. So what I did was, I think, I linked into Serra, and I attempted to activate Exceed in my hand. They chained Heavenly Spheres, bounced back the Serra, and if you're not familiar with the effect and the ruling of Parallel Exceed, is that you have to special summon this card from your hand to a zone that link monster points to. So I believe if Serra is not on the field anymore, there is no link zone for Parallel Exceed to go into. So that was kind of annoying, and I think I just ended with literally one solitary mantis on the field. And then I passed, but by this point, it was actually coming up to time, and me being the truthful, naive person that I am, I literally said to him, you could just attack, and he would have basically had more life points than me, and I would have lost. But, you know, being, I guess, a D-Link combo player, he just said, I just want to make sure that I've got game. So he just carried on comboing, despite the fact that I'd already said to him, you could just attack me. And basically time was called while we were still in main phase 1. So I drew that match. I think one of my teammates won their match and my other teammate lost, so we ended up just overall drawing our round 1 of the 3v3, which was irritating, but still better than an outright loss. So yeah, matchup with D-Link is really tough. I believe I did side in Drolls, but I don't believe I don't think I saw a Droll in my hand, you know, all Sunday, even though I sided it in. So that was that, really. So moving on to my second matchup, that was actually against Rogue deck. So I was against, I think probably Hero Go Second OTK. I don't really know what to call the deck. If anybody knows, please let me know. But it's the one basically where they try, I think they use Dark Calling fusions, fusion spell thing to go into Malicious Bane, which like destroys monsters and gains 200 attack for each one destroyed, and then just smacks you in the face. So I think I had managed to win the die roll on this one, and what I did was, I think I ended up making Sarah, Rafflesia, and I believe I also extended into a Time Thief reduo with a Holutia underneath it, which is pretty cool, and I must have had some stuff set. So me being silly me was like a bit, you know, just a little bit flustered, and I basically forgot to activate Time Thief reduo in his standby phase. So yeah, lost on a pinch at that point, and he went ahead and activated a Hero Lives, which halves their life point in order to special summon a hero from deck. So I think I managed to negate that one somehow. They must have had some kind of trap, or you know, might have been an Ash. I honestly can't remember. And then he somehow had another one and halved his life points again to 2,000 immediately. And I was like, okay. And I think with my interruption stuff, I think I managed to basically stop him doing much. I think I saw Lancia so much on Sunday. I might have just shotgunned that. And I didn't realise before how much Lancia interrupts that Malicious Bane hero deck, because their spell card, Dark Calling, I think, basically has to banish from the graveyard in order to special summon. So that was great. So it passed over to me. I think all I managed to do was hit him for 800 damage somehow. It might have been a Prisma or something he managed to get on the field that I impermed. I can't remember. And then I think I had Gravedigger's Trap Hole set, so he just started comboing off, and then I think he activated one of the heroes in his hand. I think it's like pink, it begins with a V, I can't remember. And I just chain Gravediggers, and I think the silly thing is, like, I think he knew it was there, because often when Traptrix do stuff, you have to show that you're setting a trap so they can read it if they want. So I think my top tip, if you are playing against Traptrix, is to just try and remember where we have set our cards. I think if you have Mantis, a great thing to do is just return them all to hand and then set them again, and that way you also get around the end phase Dianea banish thing, because if Dianea sets something from grave, you got to basically banish it at the end phase of your next turn if you haven't used it. But Mantis basically resets it, and plus your opponent doesn't know where you've set things. But I haven't managed to do that much yet. So yeah, basically I won the first game because he burnt himself to death, basically. So then we went game 2, and yeah, fair enough, he went first and he managed to kill me with Malicious Bane. Hey ho. And then game 3 was actually pretty good. I managed to shotgun the Lancia, I had Gravediggers, I ashed his normal summon Stratos, and then yeah, I think, yeah, I just a combination of poked him and burned him. And that was a pretty satisfying win for me, given that, you know, I think going against OTK decks can be a little bit scary sometimes. And then afterwards, I think I heard him talking to his teammates saying that because I'd shotgunned the Lancia when I passed turn, he couldn't evenly me, and he also couldn't dark calling fusion shenanigans me either. So that was pretty cool. Oh, and that reminds me, the way I grinded out the first game with him was Time Thief Reader. So after the first standby phase, I forgot. I kept nicking stuff, and I think that deck has so many spells that it literally just kept putting spells under, and I even managed to take a triple tactics thrusting, which was really funny. And I detached that, and I drew into an Ash. So that was this card, I think, actually grinded me, if that was a word, grinded me the first game against that hero deck. So I was super happy with Time Thief Redoer. I just have to be more careful to actually remember to activate it in the future. That's the one that our team won, and we won that flat out. We all won our individual games. So my boyfriend was playing Labyrinth, of course, and then one of our friends who we go to at locals, she's a super good branded Bestial player. So she also was able to help me so much with the D-Link matchup as well. Yeah, so that's the second matchup. Moving on to the third matchup that we had, I went against Kashtira. Now, the thing is, I just did not know it was Kashtira until game 2. Because I believe he won the dice roll, and he bricked so hard that he literally set 2 and passed to me. And I think because of that, again, I was flustered. I think like Sunday's YCS was mainly just me being flustered. And I basically went Serra and made Rafflesia in defense mode. I don't know, my mind just had a kind of like, oh, I'm going first mindset. And I literally said pass turn before even poking him for 800. That's how like flustered I was. And obviously no takebacks. He was a super chill guy, but yeah, no takebacks. So I had to live with that, but I was so lucky because he drew and he bricked and he passed back to me, and I managed to kill him by getting like, you know, the girls on board. Alamiras probably had a ping and a Dionea or something like that. Probably linked into Atopus as well. So that was super lucky. I could have really gone differently, to be honest. But obviously at that time, I had no idea what he was doing because he literally had 2 set, and whatever he activated, I think, was generic. So that didn't really give away too much information. And then I think so I basically had to side blind, which was actually really hard. I honestly can't remember. I think I sided Godala because I was like, okay, maybe he'll want to go first. The Kashtira player did actually decide to go first, and thankfully I did actually draw Lancia in my opening hand. I drew Lancia so much and it was actually super helpful. So I dropped that and that stalled a little bit, but I still managed to get poked to death because I think I basically Godala'd his Ogre, which would have been a problem for me because I'm activating traps left, right and centre. But then I think I normal summoned Pudica to try and grab the field spell Traptrix Garden, but I got ashed and I basically couldn't summon the extra mantis that I had in my hand. So I basically got I got stopped by an ash, and then he poked me to death. So that was basically I lost game 2, so we were 1-1 at that point, and then went to game 3. So I decided to go first, and I'm like, okay, I got this. I'm going to side all my going first cards. So I side 3 Solemn Judgment. I side 3 Goes Unmatched. I'm like, okay, surely, I'm just going to see like one of each or just one of the 6. Because I think statistically, if you have 5 cards, I think statistically you're meant to kind of like see one of them in your opening hand. But no, I saw 2 Solemn Judgment, 1 Ash, I believe, 1 Lancia, and I think like 1 random purple card. It might have just been Floodgate Trap Hole or Imperm or something. But that was just, my heart sank. That was not helpful at all. So all I could do really was just set 3 and pass. And it was almost kind of like a reverse of the one where I burnt the hero player to death. I basically burnt myself to death because he had preparations, and I used Solemn Judgment obviously to negate that because preparations, I think it banishes every time I do trap stuff. which was fine. And then I think in the battle phase, eventually, I just had no monsters, so couldn't get going. Or I think eventually I managed to top deck a Holotia or something, so I set that. And then he had Kashtira Rise Heart on board, which I think I'd impermed or something. So it must have been an imperm at the start to stop it doing stuff. And then Kashtira Fenrir, special summon Holotea when Fenrir declared the effect, and then he chained enemy controller. And then I used my second Solemn to halve my life points again. To negate the attack position change of Holotea, and then he just redeclared attack with Fenrir and banished Holotea, and I died. So that was a very quick death to Kashtira, but I think that could have gone anyway, because you compared that game to the Kashtira game that I had on Friday, where I completely dominated them using Floodgate, Trap Hole, and Pudica to stop them doing anything. So I think I just... I think it was unlucky, but I think maybe I need to think about constructing and siding better such that I don't brick myself with too many non-starters that I can't get started with. So, so at that point we were 1 draw, 1 win and 1 loss. And then again, like Friday, it got to like 7 o'clock in the evening and the venue had to close and the final was going on. So they basically gave everybody a bye for their 4th round. So we basically went 2-1-1, I think. So we won 2, we lost 1 and we drew 1. So that was enough to get me 4 points to add to my 8 points, to add to my 12 from Friday, and that was enough to get this gorgeous mat. So overall, I'm super happy with how I played. I feel like I was playing at a good pace. I'm starting to get a little bit more familiar with this deck and knowing when things happen. I guess learning points to take home would to be try not to block myself with Lancia and Holotea. I mean, I'm not going to lie, like the benefit of Lancia is insane. You shotgun this in the standby phase of your opponent's turn, and that basically stops them from doing quite a lot of things. Obviously, because they're turn player priority, if they want a D-shifter, you chain the Lancia, and their D-shifter won't resolve because the Lancia will stick first, which is great. Also, if you do it in the standby phase, it means that when they move to main, they can't even pot, which is fantastic. And then so many of the decks that I went against, so D-Link, with the Bestials, they need to banish to do stuff. So you stop that with Lancia, like Chaos Lavanier, you need to banish, so you stop them from getting that big monster out. With the Kashtira, obviously, if you stop them banishing, that limits a lot of their mechanics. And then against the hero player, Lancia was just amazing too, because it just stops them from going into Malicious Bane and evening you, if that makes sense. So Lancia is great, but I just think like if you want the Holotea alive in your graveyard, you have to make sure that you haven't Lancia'd. So I think I did kind of block myself once because I wanted to pop something, and then the opponent was like, oh wait, but you've Lancia'd. I was like, oh yeah, fair dues. So that's one learning point. Another learning point that I remembered was that I actually, on Sunday, I didn't go into this package at all. And I realised that, with S39 Utopia the Lightning, you can't actually use this for an XC summon, which means you can't just Utopia, overlay, attack with 5,000 and then go into Zeus. I mean, that would be broken. So I just... wanted to mention that you can't do that with this. I guess the utility of having this package over the Merrymaker Sargas Zeus package, which you can do to make a format Zeus, is that this package will easily hit over big stuff that you struggle against. So Sargas is 2,800, which unfortunately can't hit over troublesome cards such as Lady Labyrinth of the Silver Castle, which I have a problem with, whereas this one definitely will. I mean, 5,000 will hit over most towers, if they still can be destroyed by battle. So that's one thing that I wanted to point out / correct. I already mentioned that if Syrah is bounced, you can't parallel exceed, if that's in the same kind of chain. Also, like, don't panic. Remember that you can go into the battle phase. So, my Syrah, Rafflesia, and then pass turn. Yeah, just try and stay calmer. I guess it was like my first... tournament, big tournament-ish, so I guess some nerves were to be expected, but I think I feel much more confident now, given that I've managed to win this match. I'm just so happy about it. And then also don't forget to Time Thief Redoer. and pinch a top card. And then also try and use more of the Alamiris and Pingiculars effects to pinch stuff when opponent's monsters leave the field. I think a really cool one is the Alamiris one, where if you Pingicular, you banish it, you get to actually special summon it to your field and attack them with it. So I think that's a really cool way of, a different kind of way of OTKing with Alamiris. Whereas before, I think in my head, the only way I had of like OTKing, in a sense, was like Atopus, popping stuff and then boosting the Xyz. So I think I have to bear in mind alternative routes of play if I don't have enough materials to Atopus. So yeah, I think the ceiling to this deck is absolutely up there. There's so much more that I want to learn. I guess the final part of this video I just wanted to talk about maybe was kind of like changes. Perhaps I was thinking of making, because I have to say I think I'm fairly close to my final build with this deck. Lord of the Heavenly, I still have mixed feelings about. I feel like this card, it's good as a body, but it just doesn't, it conflicts with the whole Holitia Mamelio, because there's so many times when I just want to pop my opponent's stuff on their turn before they even get a chance to use it. And if I've revealed Lord on my turn, well, I've just stopped myself from destroying their stuff. So I have mixed feelings about this, and I think I'm going to be removing it until I understand it maybe a bit more. Maybe I need to just do a bit of research and test, but I'm not feeling it really for me personally. So I think I'm going to be removing that one. The other thing was the fact that I had basically bricked so much by drawing all traps or all non-starters, because I think there were at least a couple of rounds where I went first. Couldn't do anything because I had no Traptrix names in my hand. So I am thinking, should I go for another name? So Vesiculo is one that I was thinking, because, for example, if I only draw Holitia in my hand and I've got like just all monster cards, right? I've got nothing to discard to activate Holitia on this turn. If I happen to have a Vesiculo in this hand, then that's not a problem, because I could just set the Holitia, send it to the graveyard and special summon this card from my hand. And then, I don't know, I guess I could do other stuff. You could send that to link off for a Serra, I guess. And then because you haven't used the activation on the field of Holitia, I guess you could banish Holitia to special summon the Vesiculo, or you could even just banish the Vesiculo from the graveyard and set the Holitia, and you have that ready for next turn. So I think there's a couple of things that you could do, and if you did that, banish that and then set the Holitia, then I believe the Serra would actually activate. So the Serra, because it activates Traptrix monster, would set a hole directly to the back row. So I guess that's a way of just getting some advantage, even if you have a bit of a sucky hand. So yeah, doing some research, maybe I'll add one Vesiculo and just see how that helps me. And it is also another plant, which is quite nice, because, you know, if I do get rivalried, you know, that would otherwise just leave me with Boudica and Diane, which aren't great. So I guess it adds at least another one, because if you're rivalried and you're an insect, you're not too bad, because you're out in camp, you've got Mamelio, you've got Mantis. But if you're stuck in the plant section, well, it's a bit less good. So yeah, I'm thinking maybe I'll add a Vesiculo in, just to try and get another name, because drawing all traps or other just monsters is just painful. And then this card, I was also thinking, it is a normal trap, so you could discard it off Holitia, but obviously you'd rather just discard a Traptrix name off Holitia, or a hole off Holitia, would be much better. But this one might just help go into say like a Rafflesia or something if I don't have anything to discard for Holitia. So I think I just need to play around with you know, some variations. I guess the final thing I wanted to talk about was the amount of different hole traps that there actually are. So I think I need to experiment more with these. And I'm just thinking maybe I should make some kind of video talking about what holes would be good for what decks. yeah, because I guess you could even have the traps as your sideboard options depending, you know, on what matchup you go against. So I think Time Space Trap Hole is meant to be pretty good for Branded, because it means you just shuffle their stuff back and they can't use it to fusion. Yeah, a Break Off Trap Hole. So I suppose, don't know, you can destroy all monsters on the field that are not linked. I don't know, maybe if I wanted to sacrifice my own Sarah and bomb the board, maybe I could do that. I think there's a lot of options, so maybe let me know what you think. I could do a video on that. Might be quite fun. So I think that's basically all for this video. So if you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you've enjoyed this beautiful mat. I'm just going to do this. This beautiful mat as much as I have and I'm doing so. So I will post again soon. I've still got those cards from Portugal to upload, and I've got a bit of a crafty, arts and crafty video to upload soon as well. So thanks so much, and see you again soon.